3. We're live.
Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the 38, the 38th, if I have it rightly, edition of Belizean Affairs. And I am pleased to be the one who has been asked to co-host this program.
Madam Chair Lady.
Yes.
Go
Share
ahead.
this. Go
No,
ahead,
I was
Elder.
just saying, you're Madam Chair Lady for
Oh, I
tonight.
see. Yes. And of course, I'll ask all to start with the introduction of ourselves in turn. First, please, Mr. Leonard Brackett. Then we can go on to Mr. Roody Wade, and then Mr. Gregory Brackett, and then myself. And after we follow with our usual reading of a portion of the scriptures, and of course, segue into prayers before we get into this celebratory, commemorative broadcast of Belizean Affairs tonight.
Yeah. Good night, my brothers and sisters, Belizeans at home and abroad. I am tickled happily today to participate in this particular program of Belizean Affairs show, number 37, on Friday, 8th of September, 2023. And to be among these distinguished individuals, patriots at heart, and hopefully we'll present a 10th of September celebration program ahead of the 10th, because obviously I don't think we'll have one for the 10th. At least as of right now, we're not sure. Maybe, who knows what could happen in the future. But as of right now, my name is Leonard Brackett, and I'm one of the panelists on this Belizean Affairs show. And like I said, I'm grateful for the privilege to participate. And tonight, I hope I can contribute something positively.
And Mr. Roody Wade, thank you, Mr. Leonard.
You're welcome.
Pleasant good night to the Belizean public, both at home and abroad. And thank you, Miss Sharon Pitts, for sharing this special edition here tonight. It's a pleasure to be in your company and in the company of Leonard and Gregory. Hopefully tonight, like Leonard says, we could bring to the public, a little bit of the past, because it will be, we are in celebration mode, right? We're in the 10th of September mode. So, hopefully, we could do a little flashback, and hopefully to, to educate the public, and remind them of where we came from and who we are today. And I want to thank you guys, and thanks to our supporters, viewers, and listeners for tonight. I want to thank them.
Welcome, well said. And Mr. Gregory Brackett, please.
Good night, dear Chairman. Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. I'm glad to be sitting virtually with my co-host, Mr. Leonard Brackett, Mr. Rudy Wade, and our chairlady for tonight, Miss Sharon Pitts, and this our 37th edition of Belizean Affair. Hopefully tonight, in regards to our 10th celebration, we might go back a little bit into history as a commemorative towards the 10th, as we move closer to what we call Pocono Boy Stick Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
I turn it back to our chair lady.
Yes.
Thank you, chair lady.
Good night. So, Belizeans at home and abroad, this is centenary time. I would want to invite, I don't know who to start with, but Mr. Rudy Wade, Oh, sorry. Before we go on, first things first, the reading from the word, the biblical,
Thank you.
and followed by the prayers before we go on into that other
Thank you.
aspect.
All right. Uh, Thank you, chair lady, for tonight. As you rightfully says, we start our program with a word, and we try to remember, our Creator,
Yes.
because without Him, nothing is possible, and tomorrow is promised to no one. So,
Yes.
we will continue on Proverbs, 20. Proverbs 14, 21 to 29. Uh, so whoever despises his neighbor is a sinner, but blessed is he who is generous to the poor. Do they not do they not go astray who devise evil? Those who devise good meet steadfast love and faithfulness. In all toil there is profit, but mere talk trends only to poverty. The crown of the wise is their wealth, but the folly of fools brings folly. The truth, a truthful witness save lives, but
Mhm.
one who breathes out lies is deceitful. In the fear of the Lord, one has strong confidence, and his children will have a refuge. The fear of the Lord is a foundation of life, that one may turn away from the snare of death. In the multitude of people is the glory of a king, but without people, a prince is ruined. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalt folly. That's my reading for
Can you
tonight.
hear the clock?
Uh, Greg, you want to mute your mic there, Greg?
I believe the fire engine parade is passing, but we will go into our
Thank
prayers,
you.
and then when we get to that, we can get back into nostalgia with that too. Now,
Thank
that was a
you.
reminder of one of the. Mhm.
Uh, who will be doing the prayer?
You, Leonard.
Okay.
Thanks.
Divine loving Father, once again we come before thy presence, asking thee that thou would listen to our supplications on behalf of ourselves, our family members, friends, and loved ones, and our country of Belize, its people, and its leadership. We pray that thou mayest continue to guide and bless us, strengthen us, give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Please continue to help us to be kind to each other. And as we present this program tonight in commemoration of our 10th of September celebrations, we pray that we may be able to do and say things that will accrue to the benefit and well-being of our people and country. Please continue to abide with us, the knowest our heart, our desires, even our most secret thoughts. We pray that thou mayest continue to look after our parents and loved ones, wherever they are, as if they were mentioned by name and number. We pray these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Great.
Miss
Madam Chairman,
Chair.
I don't know if Greg
I
will play
will,
or
yes,
if
I
Greg will
will
play and
play
look
a
at the
piece
music in the
of
meantime.
music now, and then we come back.
Okay.
Okay?
Go
Uh,
ahead.
he
Yes.
has, Madam Chairman, he has three different music. he's gonna pick among the three of them once in a while when we have a little break.
Wonderful, beautiful calypso. Yay. And before I call on the first of our panelists, I believe the approach tonight is to mix the heritage with the history, the significance of the Battle of St. George's Key and our September celebrations, and commemorate and celebrate. I just want to make one quick comment. Wasn't it providential that I don't know if listeners abroad, what sounded like a bit of disturbance was actually, I think, the sirens from the fire engine parade. And then look, the song Mr. Greg played was Calypso Rose, but I'll say no more. So I don't know which of you will go first. I want to ask, but anybody could. Of course, we go. Let's start with more of the significance of the Battle of St. George's Key, and I would call on Mr. Leonard, please. Yes, sir.
I was just putting up my finger because as you mentioned about St. George's Key, I had something that I wanted to talk about St. George's Key.
Wonderful.
So that gives me an opportunity to raise my hand quickly so I could volunteer.
Yes, so
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Shirley,
welcome.
for taking up the responsibilities of doing the program, this special program for tonight. And I just want to go ahead and read what I was. What I'm about to read right now is a little commentary that I made because, well, let me go ahead and read it. It's self-explanatory, so let me read. The following comments were made by Leonard Brackett as part of a thread to a Facebook post by Belize Ex-Servicemen's League of New York regarding the 10th of September Battle of St. George's Key celebration of 2022 AD. I titled my commentary, Battle of St. George's Key, open bracket, myth or fact, close bracket, question, exclamation. I went on to say, the cynics are saying that the Battle of St. George's Key did not happen, and neither did the Flowers Bank 14 story has any truth to it. As to them, the defeat of the Spanish galleons ships was inconsequential. They seek to discredit local triumphalism, victory, right of conquest, whilst lending aid and comfort to our detractors' mortal enemy, the Guatemalans, for example, as well as to discredit and dispossess us and usurp our rights of occupancy within the boundary of our internationally recognized independent country, open bracket, Republic of Belize, close bracket, Belize. That is my commentary, and I hope that I'll post it. As a matter of fact, I posted it earlier today, and I'll post it again. People can go to my post and get an opportunity to read it themselves. Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, most welcome. And I, sitting in the chair, I am not to do anything other than to pass over to the next speaker.
No,
But
no, no.
just,
No, no, no,
just
no,
That's
no.
how
allow
we
me to
roll.
say,
That's how
Uh-huh.
we
and
roll.
this brings me,
The chair
No,
lady or the
you
chairman has a contribution.
no, you
okay,
got to
So you can bring your contribution
contribute
whenever
there,
and
Miss
wherever you
Smith.
want.
I
yes,
mean,
We don't
and,
roll like that.
Miss
fine.
Smith.
I will come back to it, but I want to say that the Battle of St. George's Key is well documented, and the archives of England, Spain, which was defeated, the original letters and archives and documents from right here in the Bay of Belize. We have documented history in Mexico and in Jamaica and throughout the world. I have to say this very quickly, but let me just reach back to that silver tongue orator of British Honduras, so dubbed by the Jamaica Gleaner newspaper, my late grandfather, Roderick Augustus Spitz. He delivered an impromptu oratory at Liberty Hall. I don't have the text of it with me here.
Oh, man.
In, I believe, 1946, when that evil of the myth came from that Western regime by people who had not the interests of Belize nor the history of the people at heart. And I will just say this part. If the Battle of St. George's Key was a myth, then so too the Battle of Blenheim and Waterloo and so on and so on. And he said, if, and I'm praising, if we celebrate great victories of men and people throughout the world, not his exact words, how much more would we not celebrate the valiance of our ancestors whose blood still courses through our veins? And he wrote in 1928, published in 1928, a 34 stanza poem. And I will say the Chief Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes of the United States wrote a 4 stanza poem about Old Ironsides SS Constitution. And my grandfather wrote 34 stanzas, which in 1998, the poet laureate of London, the modern day Shakespeare, dramatized. And out of that, and I always say this brings us right again to the victory at St. George's Key and right on to our independence. He titled it The Battle and the Flag. And of that, 4 of the stanzas were popularized into the famous Sons of Honduras. And just allow me to, I think I have it in this book, but the Evening of Patriotic Song Tell at Wesley Church is usually started with that. And it goes, Sons of Honduras, the spirit of our sires will welcome the homage your bravery inspires. Those baymen who fought and discharged their grave trust, whose bodies now mingle with earth's fertile dust, all died that this land which by blood they acquired might give us the freedom their bravery inspires. Sons of Honduras, so sing ye aloud of our forebears, how much, how brave we are proud. The white man, the black man, the master, the slave, all must be listed and counted as brave. Whenever you lift up your glad hearts to sing, oh, mingle their freedom with God save our King. Whenever you lift up your glad hearts to sing, now in modern day Belize, let's commingle the baymen, the free men, the black man with God save our country, Belize. Let's sing. God save our King once more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. That was lovely. I enjoyed that.
Welcome.
My blood
So
was
go on
running
now. So
like I was having cold feet while I was hearing that
yes,
presentation.
and I didn't mean to voice it on you, but you know,
No,
it
no,
brought that.
no. I mean that's how
Is
much.
there
That's how much he.
music there, Leonard? I mean,
Yes.
I'm Gregory. Sorry.
Yes, and after the next music, Mr. Greg, I want you to take us down memory lane from fire engine parade to some others, which led up to the week preceding the grand
Right.
parade,
Let
10th of
me
September.
let's try to get this thing lit up since we go in
Yes.
tent.
The Creole culture.
Beautiful. And I want to say, feel free, grab on a broomstick and ding ding walla. And as the other music come and it's into September broke down. So I passed you over now. But listeners at home and abroad, celebrate, commemorate even as we listen. Mr. Gregory Brackett, please.
I would like to pass it over to Mr. Wade at this time for his comment, and I will follow.
Thank you. Since we thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Since we're in this festive month of September, I could relate a little bit. Now, when I was a kid, going to school in the teen, infants into standard and thing, we used to get a little bag with some little sweet in there.
Paper bag.
Paper bag with couple of sweet, and then from there you can get one ideal, right?
Cupcake or for a bun.
Or cupcake or for a
Or
bun.
like cake.
That used to be
milk.
religiously
with ice in there.
Yes, every 10th of every September celebration that we look forward to, right? But I don't see these things happen anymore, Chair Lady and guys.
Say, at the evening of patriotic songs and poems at Wesley Church, the Mr. William Neal, who was the chairperson, made an announcement. He said we'll be getting our treats, like cake and lemonade, and you could hear the crowd giving an one off. And then after he said,
I wish I was there.
Like he said, he was just saying it nostalgically, right? But that really wasn't so. But guess what? By the end of that, they said they had 2 big bags, and they had a paper bag with them. They had cupcake, and then they had soft drink. Mr. Wade, allow me. In my time, where I remember, they had a children's program, right? School children, and I think they had some kind of they had the patriotic music and you march and you dress up your classroom or school children's rally.
Everybody got a little flag there.
To the center, and you have your Belize flag and so on. But what are the excitement? You used to bring your buckle to school, your pint bottle the day before.
I remember that.
You used to have to wash out that bottle, and there was nothing nicer than that buckle. So go on, right?
Bradley's lemonade or Sharon's lemonade.
Yes, lemonade and the sweet. Yes, the sugar plum sweet that you mentioned.
Yes, man. So
go on, some other memories.
It tickled my head now.
Yes, so we just
don't forget you had a Moody's lemonade too.
Moody's, that was on the canal side. I don't remember.
Had exceptional lemonade.
So Madam Chair Lady and guys, I just bring back memories and relate to the youths of today, how we used to do it, right?
Yes, and just allow me for the listeners abroad, lemonade had different flavors. So if it was a grape lemonade, it was still a lemonade. If it was a lemon lemonade, if it was a strawberry lemonade, it was still the thing would be the distinguishing colors, but lemonade, right?
But
Yes.
guys, you know, those were some good times growing up. Festive during the 10th of September celebration, you know, and then growing up into manhood and everything, I joined the police special force, and you know, then I used to be one of the policemen where carry the wreath. I remember a couple of times I gave the wreath to the Honorable CLB Rogers. He was the, you say, I had to go way back, all right? I had to go way back, you know, and you know, he go and lay that wreath, and you know, the whole celebration, you know, a lot of activities with the police, you know,
Oh, they had military tattoo as well. You're
yes,
right.
have that military tattoo. And even when the police special force was disbanded, and I was one of the first to form the BDF. You know, I carry on that tradition to you know, because I was a sharp dresser there, Leonard and Miss Madam Chairlady. I was a very sharp dresser. I was dressed always sharp, so I was always be that front man.
Wow,
right?
razor blade sharp.
Right, so we could go back in history, you know. I mean, those things supposed to be on archives, right?
Well, you were,
But
Remember,
excuse me, you were in defense force?
remember
say
speed
again?
shining? Remember speed shining your shoes? And you
Yeah,
have to see yourself in your shoes.
exactly. I was saying, Miss Sharon, Miss Chairlady, that I transitioned from the police special force, and then we formed the BDF. I was one of the first to form the BDF.
Wow, shoulder to
So
shoulder. Now, what is interesting, might I just say, that the very motto used to this day comes right out of the Battle of St. George's Key, because the slaves, the free blacks, and the
yes,
Bakra or white overseers, baymen to me, keymen, seamen, people in the bay, encompass
yes,
all. But they fought
yes,
shoulder to shoulder,
shoulder
and
to
the
shoulder,
BDF
yes.
got with them.
So it
What
was
if
a festive
from that?
thing there, guys. You know, with the back then, right? The PDF was very much involved in the celebrate, you know, in 10th of September celebration in all over the country, you know.
Yes.
You know, so that was a very good, you know, festive time in my time, right? And you know, I don't know where the breakdown went, you know, and you know, it seems that we're not that festive anymore in the military, right?
Excuse me, can I please acknowledge the person the listener? She says, or do I do it at the end? She says, I
No,
remember,
go ahead.
sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm not seeing too well. The lettering is small, but I remember taking a pint bottle to get a free soft drink and a paper bag with goodies at school. Indeed.
I remember.
Right, you're so right on that, Flirtail. So right on that, and thanks for reminding the nation and Belizean of those good old days. Go
The younger
ahead.
generation, no, they don't get to enjoy
Well,
that kind of
anyway,
thing,
let
man.
me just conclude here is that
Yes, sir.
you know, in those days, you know, we were very much patriotic. We are a nation of patriots, right? You know, so then you don't worry about, but you pay, you know, you don't worry about what you get or what, but you that patriotism was there, right? So there lately there is breakdown, and it's not that patriotic anymore. So I like to close what I got to say by saying to the public out there, who are celebrating, please celebrate wisely and constructively, and do it from the heart and enjoy on yourself, right? Enjoy on yourself, but do it responsibly.
Mm-hmm. And let the
Back to you, Madam Chair Lady.
let the spirit of the season, right? Sometimes if you see me when I jump up or pop in a tent parade, I usually start with the formal part, listen to the ceremonies, observe the inauguration of the Queen of the Bay. I
Mhm.
checked, and we have a chain of succession from when again my grandfather wrote the patriotic pageant with charm, beauty, chivalry, history of the Queen of the Bay. And Rita Lewis was the first crown in 1946. And Missy Loisy Humes, again a relative, she went home so inspired by the beauty and dignity and grace of first Queen of the Bay that she wrote
She was the first queen of the Bay, Madam
Miss,
Shirley.
Miss Rita Lewis.
Okay, Rita
And
Lewis. Okay.
Missy Loisy Humes, she wrote the Queen of the Bay, both the words and the music, and it's a waltz and a symbol of love is the Queen of the Bay. And it was an instant. I think by way of Belizean music, you see apart from that, the Queen of the Bay, the array and variety of patriotic poetry and songs and the music you have from all walks of life. Vidal Montejo, J. Sullivan Martinez, Edward Percival York. Um, I think there's Kane. Yes, you have Sir Edney Kane,
Yeah.
Philip
Okay.
Campbell,
Mhm.
Harvey Jeffries, musician, Jesus Chuchin Acosta. And we have the 10th day of September song that even we listened earlier to Calypso Rose and she popularized. This was written, we used to say Abel's March, but it was words and music by Father Bernard F. Ablin, Society of Jesus. And we have Samuel Haynes who wrote the national anthem,
Mhm.
and the music was uh, written, the musical score by Dr. Selwyn Young. And of course, we have, it is so beautiful that the first patriotic song is said to have been written that we know of in 1898. But surely, you know how we are as a people, there must have been natural songs celebrating that victory. So we had one of the traditions used to be, and I guess I'll go to Mr. Greg. Remember Memorial Park and that the events from the picking of the Queen of the Bay. We have the 78th Queen designate who was selected, and she will be crowned on this 10th September morning at Government House, and she will
Mhm.
lead the parade to the which will wind through the principal streets and culminate at Memorial Park this September the 10th from the morning. So I go to Mr. Greg and please help us with some of the nostalgia. And
Yes.
when you heard the
Yes.
fire engines, just know,
Yes.
did it
We
bring back
heard
any
it.
boyhood memories?
It brings back a whole lot of memories to me. But I would want to say this to Belizean at home and abroad. We have gone from the Baymen to a colony to self-governing to independent. Likewise, we have gone from the BHVG to the Belize Defense Force. We have listened to patriotic songs together rhythm. We had the Voice of the Bay contest where we had
Yes,
singers like Louis Perfitt, we had Miss Lovell, we had
yes.
Anthony Richards, we had many
Oh
Belizean
gosh,
artists who was extraordinary, supreme. I myself, I had two twin sisters who had won most of those contests, who many would know They were called the Usher Sisters,
Wow.
and they have paved the way for many, many other vocalists and artists. They have performed as others with Baron Lee, the Harmonists, and many groups that
Wow.
has helped to entertain this celebration when it comes about. But with me saying that, when I hear people want to call the tent a myth, I can never, never vouch for that because every country in the world is built on the backs of the citizens, some of who have died going to war or have stood up in civil war to protect what they believe in. And I'm
Amen
saying
to
this
that.
because the 10th of September will bring a day when we had former Belizean who were patriotic, who were swept away by the Janet hurricane, not knowing what a hurricane was, but was out there paying homage and participating in a celebration because they believe in democracy. And so, with me saying that Belize is a young country, we are still fighting to hold on to our independence and to our territory. And I would like to say to Belizean at home and abroad, let's be steadfast and let's be talking about our ideals that we will face going to the ICJ.
Yes.
Because as a citizen of this country, I want to see my country deliver back to us intact so that we can continue to celebrate many more 10th celebrations with patriotism. With that, Ms. Chair Lady, I pass it back to you.
Well said. And Mr. Brackett, Mr. Greg, I was trying to pull some of the traditions, but I think the best is the heritage and the root of it. And I listened to you keenly, and what is interesting is that you brought a lot, but you kind of redirected the focus back to the history. And permit me just quickly, I have here, for the young people and the elders and in between, history, right? First-hand account. So, as I said briefly, we have the Battle of St. George's Key is one of the most well-documented history in the world. And I have dared somebody who wrote 13 chapters of Belize. I didn't dare somebody asked if I would be willing to debate the person. I was at the airport. And I said, of course, without hesitation. I said, well, when would you be available? I'm available. Set the venue. I heard back about 2 weeks after they couldn't find a venue. I'm still waiting, but Mr. Francis Humphreys, Stephen Fairweather, you have Mr. Nigel Encalada. We have a lot of our people who, and the history is there, it will not be denied.
Knowledge.
Now, let me read this to you. Listen to this. This is the Battle of St. George's Key from the diary of General O'Neill's assistant, D. Francisco de Heredia Vergara. Now, Francis Arturo O'Neill was he was a captain general of the Yucatan, and O'Neill sounds Irish, right? Don't miss that. But he was the head of the Spanish Armada, which was coming for the force. We had Colonel Barra, the land captain. Landed expeditions had come. We had 6 attempts by them to try and unlodge the settlers. And we had the sea captain, Captain Moss. So Sea Captain Moss was at that capital, St. George's Key. And 1st June 1797, the public meeting, the Flowers Bank 14, there was deadlock, high drama, debate. And aren't the lessons the same now? There were some, Thomas Potts and others, saying, as we did before, let us go somewhere till things settle down and come back. But the settlement was so valuable that there were some saying we're not abandoning this or leaving for convenience this time, right? In the sense that they would, you know how people bluff, right? There wasn't there was never a total leaving, but I'm saying it that way quickly, right? And there was this meeting at the public meeting at the courthouse, 1st June 1797. There was deadlock. The vote was tied, and women were voting again, and men. Property interest, Thomas Potts. And if you look at a Belize $5 bill, that tomb or sarcophagus, it had a relief oval. That was the face of Potts, and it's like on 4 lions' feet, and it was off a lodge on St. George's Key. Okay, I know I said too much because people destroy things which are original historical references, and international, you need 2 good references. Anyway, I don't want to digress. So, Paslow, and he may beat a slave girl, and me cruel, Paslow building where they had the battlements. The thing is, though, Paslow led the debate, and he said, isn't it true now again? A man who is not prepared to defend the land should not reap the benefits. The Flowers Bank 14 came down, led by Adam William, and Caesar Flowers, and other men and women who had descendants with the same names today. Of the 14, only 2 were white. They voted. There was voting, vigil, and victory, valiance, and consolidation of Belize. We are here because they were here. We could get into the details. But let me get back to, we never had, you used to have the manuscript, the handwritten historian or diarist of these captains who would be leading the war. So this one, and this is from Molina Solis, History of Yucatan, and this was republished, Merida, 1913, pages 342 to 346. And he gave the reference. The 10th of September will be a memorable day because on that day, the Battle of St. George was fought, and it served the English as a pretext to conquest the Walix, W-A-L-I-X, it's spelled territory, which previously they confessed to dominate precariously. Can you believe that? And you can go on and on and on. Okay? You can go on and on. Now, isn't that most compelling? The person who was defeated, straight out of the horse's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And the country of Spain contributed back to the country of Belize, this history. And remember, this happened even before Mexico, our neighbor to the north, won its independence from Spain. Before the enemy to the west. Remember, there was the Central American whatever. But the history of Belize is so beautiful, so detailed. And I could go on and on, but I need to go to Mr. Wade. So we are spice it up with history, but we are spice it up with certain things. And remember, smokers, just like we had volunteer guard, we had the ex-servicemen, our first heroes were those brave men of the Battle of St. George's Key. And our first coat of arms showed 2 distinctly black men with the various implements of our aristocracy, the mahogany and logwood trade. And under the shades we flourish for freedom. But the other servicemen who were honored would have been the firemen at some point in time. They had the fire engine parade when you had the engines. And that would happen the evening of September the 9th, and children and parents would come out to the lanes. And after they would have the parade and the excitement, the firemen, servicemen would retire to the fire station yard, and they would be hosted with what was called a smokers. And there would be speeches and so on and tributes to them. I asked a fireman who came to my office a couple weeks ago if they will be having the fire engine parade, and he said yes. And I remembered when I heard what was that, the sirens just now. So thank you. So Mr. Roody Wade, please,
Yes,
back
yes.
to you.
Well, very much informed there, Miss Chair Lady, right? Miss Fitz, you know, you took us back all the way back, and for those who had said that Butler St. George's Key is just a myth, there you have it, right? So who are they to question? But anyway, I this is the a festive month, and
Let their political commentaries masquerading as a historian step forward. We have the time, and history is not found in just a few pages. So that is one where we can camp. It can be St. Mary's Hall, it could be Battlefield Park. We can go once it's within the country of Belize, and we can camp and we could eat Johnny cake and we could drink lime water. And who tired could go. We could take who wants to stay for 15 minutes could stay, but we might have to stay overnight and we will share the history.
We are still
We will
waiting.
share the history.
We are still waiting for the
So,
challenge,
we are about
for the
history.
response to the challenge.
We are about people, and we are about country. And I would like to say this to my comrades, those that who is still here. You know, I want to thank them for their service. You know, the ex-member of the police special force, you know, the ones who had served, and
Yes,
you know, the
I'm
ones
happy with
who
that.
was
Yes.
the first
Yes.
to farm the BDF, right? And we set a precedent. I was part of that, and I'm a very proud Belizean to have been a part.
And what I would ask is for retrieval, and if can be noted, as my grandfather said, all must be listed and counted as brave. It compels us. You know, we remember one, we bring forward and
exactly
cheer and commemorate them, honor them.
Exactly. Thank you. I am here now to acknowledge, because you know the people on the ground always be the one that do not get the fame, right? Do not, right? So you know, I am not about honoring politicians, right? But I honor my heroes, my patriots. So those who are still here, you know, with us, may God continue to bless them. And again,
Amen.
thanks.
Amen.
And I'll one me forward to 21st of September 1981. A lot of people don't know this. As a young NCO, I was one of the 4 BDF soldiers marched and removed the British flag and replaced the Belize flag. I was one of those.
Beautiful,
right?
Beautiful.
For those
Wonderful.
who do not know,
that must. I would ask you, please, for that history, and please write it so that we inscribe it, because our people tend to, and if we don't do the history, we don't leave our history to politicians. And I forgot to say, acknowledge, Mr. Greg, you started with music, or it was the second one from Miss Leela Vernon. And you look how it brings back, very patriotic. She used to be holding the fort with the 10th of September, and she formed her own band to help support it in Punta Gorda. But one of the famous, you know, Creole songs come out for every important occasion. And in one of her songs, she wrote and sang the Union flag drop and the Belizean flag high span top. That is to be cherished. It's a gem.
So
thank you.
I close before I pass back to you.
Yes.
You know, Chair Lady, right? Is that I am a very proud Belizean, right? And you know, you don't hear, you know, these things because you know people don't talk about it. We don't talk about good men and good women in this country. All we hear is about this politician and that politician, how much in thief and how much in this and how much in that, right? But you don't hear about patriotic Belizean
politicians who would deny our history. they're about unraveling, you see the attack on the
Exactly.
Constitution, right?
Exactly.
And we had, Belize went through certain things again before independence. And I was talking tonight, and there were students, there were leaders, there were civil service union, guild of graduates of tertiary institution, professional and technical engineers. I think you had chamber of commerce. In short, the lessons that they don't want to remind people of the civics. You notice how they took civics out of the school,
Exactly.
right? That's why the
Exactly.
children don't remember these things and don't know. So they want to make a gap, and then they want to propagandize and say, well, no, bring this in. Good night. You're getting a good night greeting, and
Good
thanks
night,
for being
all.
on.
Yes.
And
Facebook user.
so Mr. What you're saying, Mr. Wade, is so crucial. So we have to share these, and our history belongs to our country and our people. And sometimes people are shy to put it out, but you have a lot of unassuming men and women there out there. They are carriers, they are custodians of history. And this get back to a line that from the national anthem that Samuel Haynes, he wrote it. They didn't even get his permission for the national anthem. But praise God, it is a beautiful anthem, and it has passed the test of time and ought to be cherished and preserved. Remember, he said,
Exactly.
nature has blessed thee. And I understand the original was with riches untold, but it's
Which is
with wealth untold. And
wealth
then he goes
untold.
on to this heritage whole. Aren't we all? Isn't our mandate for a people, those who went before us, who sacrificed, who handed us this country, to hold it on and pass the baton to younger generations? And your baton of honor, that Independence Eve, Mr. Rudy Wade, is not to be denied. And I am we're compatriots. And the one thing we can't afford is indifference. When we come together in the love of Belize, nothing, by the grace of God, nothing defeats Belize. No enemy. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for that wonderful
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
tour
Thank
of
you.
duty for Belize, which is ongoing.
Thank you. I am so proud to have served my country with dignity, right? And like I say, we honor the patriot of this country. I do not honor any politician. I do not. I mean, that's only me, right? But I honor my patriots and all those girl guides back. Remember those girl guides?
Yes.
Let's
Boys
let's
Brigade,
and yes,
Boys
yes,
Club.
yes.
I was
Who
one of
who
them.
helped to who
Yes.
helped to celebrate the occasion, right? And make it festive, colorful,
Mhm.
nice, right? We went wrong. I don't know where we went wrong. We don't have that festive anymore, But
Mhm.
to close off, thanks to all those who had served, right? Who had done right by people and nation, right? And may they, may they continue to see themselves as true patriot of this country.
Mhm.
And I send it back to you, um, chair lady.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. And I just want to correct to say that I was in Girl Guides, but Independence Eve, I was at home. And for me, with Independence, I don't go in a parade. What I do is I stay at home and I look into the history and the significance. I don't do a full fast, but I look into what independence means to us. And it's a very sobering day for me. Sometimes I would go out and look at a bit of the parade, but I do a vigil. That's a day when I get into a deep vigil. Okay, thank you. Like I did the very first Independence Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we go to a bit of music again, please, Mr. Greg. Unless Mr. Leonard, you want to come in back now?
Before
I'll wait after the music.
Okay, wonderful.
Why enjoy a little bit more of music?
Yes, man. Yes, man. Yes, man.
I'm in that festive mood.
Yes.
I am a Belizean. Belize my home, my native land. I want you people to understand. I am proud to be a Belizean. If you're bande, you're bande. If you're bande, you're bande. Hey! Aye. If you come from Kayo, you're bande. If you come from Benke, you're bande. Way down south of Fiji. Then you go right up to Stan Creek.
Wow.
Okay.
But we have to quit,
I
man.
just really enjoy the thing.
Yes, I remember Calypso Rose and Lord Rayburn. Somebody
Yes, man.
teased me
Yes,
tonight
yes,
that then they have some event and they have Calypso Rose. I said, what in there? I remember 10th of September parade. And when Calypso Rose Birdseye, but in the parade with Lord Rayburn, I think I was in high school. And we used to go and yeah, and you spin wrong, right? Energy. And the highlight was when you reach Big Bridge, right? And you're there behind the truck there, right? And you got your lead parade march too, because when you're there, when you show off, you're like top notch chick, Brahmasa, everything in a one, right? And you
No,
go
we had a word a long
forward,
time there, Miss
and then you go back down the bridge and you lean back, right? And if you don't lean back with you, then you go over the bridge. So beautiful. And I just want to acknowledge too, it's so beautiful that what you played just now, Mr. Greg, with Lord Rayburn. Lord Rayburn is still there, still singing, and an event is being held at near the Memorial Park tonight, and an area was renamed after him. Kenny Gladden, Kenny G, the young man, and his children, and they come from a very musical family. And when we, the St. George's Key Day Society, when I was chairperson, and we wouldn't have any funds, and they would try and break up the tent. One year I said, well, if the me and my tree picnic with frying pan and pot spoon, we want parade. I was able, by the providence, to speak with Kenny G, and I will tell you, then time we have to try borrow truck, we had to try borrow generator they broke down. But that young man, Kenny Gladden, he was in the 10th of September parade. And I came and said we paid him an honorarium. I have pole seeds. So he will be in the parade again as the main headliner this September. I am no longer arranging the parades, but I still pay keen ear to that. So then I take you back, and we go back now, please, to Mr. Brackett, Mr. Leonard Brackett. And Mr. Leonard,
I want to tell one story. Oh, sorry.
Yes, please, yes, good.
I want to tell one story.
Him along shore.
Okay. In 1965, well, before 1965, my granduncle, Mr. Egbert Brackett, used to be the Grand Marshal for the 10th of September celebration. So on this particular 10th of September, which was now, as I was going to say earlier, 1965, I was marching in the parade with him, and I was marching right beside him, no?
Wow.
So my interest was not about him. My interest was in that coconut boy stick where he had in his hand.
Well, that was symbolic. No, I have to get back to coconut boy.
Yeah, I finish. I'll take too long.
Yes, nobody
So,
you have the floor,
thank you.
Mr. Brackett.
So while we were coming around by Governor House there, I asked my uncle, my granduncle, I told her, can I be the Grand Marshal for a couple of seconds? Can I hold a stick? Because the Grand Marshal used to always walk with a coconut boy stick, right? That's the way he used to use as to direct the march and everything, at the front of the march. So he said, boy, this thing now holy thing. He said, this thing now not play thing, now no picnic thing. So I tell her about uncle. So he tell me this thing now not picnic thing. And I direct just said you and I look do my part in this march, and I'm involved in politics and things like that. He said, okay, well, you know what? Hold it for a few minutes. Man, I don't think I gone to heaven alive without having to die.
And that was a passing of the baton. No,
That is
for
my point.
listeners,
That
there
was my point.
was
After
the
that,
original committee, an earlier committee of party of
Sharon,
1898, and then one which was later with like Edward Flowers, and then the St. George's Key. So we had citizens across all walks of life.
I was
No,
one of them.
interestingly enough, there was also the loyal and patriotic order of the
I'm
Baymen.
still a member
And
of
Mr.
that.
Brackett, your uncle and the Brackets are
They initiated
pictured.
me into that. They initiated me into that.
Yes,
Loyal
amongst
patriotic
them,
order. But I
Medkin,
want to finish the point.
Brackett, Casasola,
Wait,
Pitt,
Sharon,
etc. Yes.
give me a chance, man. I get excited, I go on like they need bad thing.
That's what it does to us. Centenary.
Stop talk about my grandfather, British.
Wait. That the man
You know
inspired.
that's my grandfather, right?
Yeah. At that time, I was so flabbergasted that he yielded. I didn't thought he was going to actually do it. I mean, I test him and test the man. But I was also interested, like I said, in an Apoconoboy stick. I just wanted to feel how that thing feel, and I wanted to feel the vibes about all the celebration that was going on and everything. And you know how deep down into my soul that thing struck me? That one experience there on that particular day. Before then, I was with Mr. Golson. Okay? But after that one day, I locked on to Mr. Golson, and after that, I was never separated from a man.
Wow.
The States. I was his bodyguard. I was the person that made sure that whenever he leaves home, wherever he's going, he gets there safe, and whenever he leaves, he gets home safe. We used to be on the road, down at PG, we did a Cayo, we did all over the place. We did in a dory, the paddle dory between Mango Creek and all over the place. But what I was trying to say though is that one touching at all these stick, to me represented like some energy, something that got imbued in me, that propelled me into becoming the person I turned out to be politically wise, with the guidance of Mr. Golson. My granduncle never gave me a lot of political heft, right? He just gave me that inspiration. And Mr. Golson, that the gentleman, who actually imbued in me the call to duty in terms of, what is required to be a vanguard of my country till death. And in 1973, we signed on to that in our own blood. 8 years after. And that was the unmaking of the PUP, because we were the group that took the measures to them and disciplined them. Before that, they were a big bad blue machine that could not be defeated. And by the time we created UDP in 1973, by 1974, when they had the general election, in 1 year and 3 months after, we almost took the whole government. That's the level of inspiration that we had in that party at the beginning of the party. But anyhow, that's another thing to talk about, because I noticed
very important. Thank you for that, Mr. Brackett. And I know you have the archival history.
And I never seen UDP celebrate the birth of their party.
Yes. And they tend to not reach back far enough, right? Like they're cutting off their very roots, no? And sometimes that is where they let go of the foundation, right? No, Mr. Brackett, though, just allow me, please, as chairperson, when you mentioned Pocono Boy, look how it ties in. We have after Mr. Wilfred Peters, my friend, no? Sir Wilfred, right? You have a young man, Pocono Boy. He called that his name. He regalia and he coconut straw hat and he barefoot and he performs well. But you know, even those who had sought to ridicule the tent, you know, Mr. Golson, there was an article in a September Herald titled "The Day the Tent Was Saved." You know, they went so far as to try and, you know, I don't know, these people don't serve Belize, they serve an enemy regime. And Mr. Golson had to do certain things. So it's over and over. And I just want to quickly refer before I get back to Pocono Boy to a 1984 September Herald. You watch what these media people write now and you look back at what they wrote. I used to like republish this in the September Herald. 1984, Mr. Evan Hyde was writing, and the caption, and I'm going from memory, I don't have it before me, was "No other event in the history of the settlement had a comparable impact." And he went on about the Battle of St. George's Key, and there were like certain things before, and you know, he opined to the effect that the slavery existed and it existed after, and that the Spaniards, the invaders thought they could promise the slaves freedom to side with them, and that's what's so significant again. But there were certain things before, and the manumissions were much more after. But he said words to the effect that out of the Battle of St. George's Key, the amount of patriotic songs and poetry and music. And I remember this line verbatim. He said, "You cannot legislate art. Art does not lie." He brought it home with that, 1984. And then, so watch when they talk and say, no, they better remember themselves, right? But when you're spitting at the sky against the history of this God-given country, me say left them to God, we do what we should do. Now, Pocono Boy, right? Some of them say, oh, that just Pocono Boy want a few sticks. Well, I'll tell you what. Mr. Thomas Greenwood at Flowers Bank a couple of years ago was saying he was head of the BDF, right? And he studied at Sandhurst Military Academy, foremost in the world in England. And he said that
he was a major
volunteer
in the BDF, yeah.
He was a volunteer guard before he became BDF.
Oh, I see. Thanks.
He came over from the Belize Volunteer Guards.
He was the head. He was the head of the Belize Volunteer Guard.
Oh, and he said he gave some history, and I was, wow. And he said that the Battle of St. George's Key, I don't want to talk about military tactics because the enemies listen more, right? But that was used for our strategy to teach the best case study. And I will say this, right? A young man with a certain patriotic surname descended from some of the same family who write poetry and music and was involved in the loyal and patriotic. You hear what they name themselves? Do you notice why they name themselves that? Loyal and patriotic order of the Baymen, because they knew what they were up against. You know that he told me one day, he said, Miss Spitz and talk about Pocono Boy. He said, but if they would go into the history of Pocono Boy, it was the best strategic defense in the interior and jungles of Belize against the enemy, because the Spanish invaders, they would come with certain muskets and guns and armament that would require firing. They would have to light it, and they could end up burning or lighting or exploding themselves on themselves. And he said with that type of military tactic, they had to get up close. But guess what the fire the Pocono Boy was? And I will say this for history. It was endemic. It is endemic to Belize, plentiful in the interior. Remember Spears and Mr. Brackett, when you were saying that your uncle, Mr. Egbert Brackett, the patriot, held up a Pocono Boy stick. I have seen ceremonies, military patriotic, internationally, of history, of independence, of what you call it, inspection of the guards. And I would notice they would hold up spears and swords, and they have symbolism and meaning. Now the Pocono boy stick, you said that touched you to the soul, it struck a nerve, and your uncle hesitated and handed it to you, and literally you were passed over and became a vanguard and protector of Philip Golson, Sir Philip, Honorable Philip Stanley Wilberforce Golson, national hero of Belize, none equal, without par. Now the Pocono boy stick, this young man was telling me, and I need to record him with his permission. He said, sharpen in interior. They didn't have to look for war armament. They could replenish. It was strong. And remember, while our people are there cutting wood and mahogany. So he said they would sharpen it and they would burn it. And when it is burned,
Hard.
it becomes. I was telling Dickie Bradley, because he used to say about Pocono boy, and surprisingly, at Magistrate's Court, he said, Miss Sharon, when they burn, that thing becomes strong like iron. So I said he might quip and he might be trying to song like Papi Shaw, but he is very serious. He knows exactly the history of that Pocono boy sick. But when
he used to be one of the deniers them.
Yes, but I'm saying he came with that. So you see how it tied in before I could say it. And imagine those things parallel to the person coming in. This person was telling me that they could, they could throw the spear, agility, so that could travel through the air to an unsuspecting enemy caught off guard. In addition, they could position them in the jungle, and it was a warning. It was a message and led to retreat of some others who would be sniping into the territory. When they saw who was impaled, it was a message that nothing happened. So they cut, run, and they
Chair,
on the flats. Sorry, yes.
Can I just say something like real quick? You see the same Pocono boy where you're elaborating on? Very, very lethal, right? And along the rivers, the Belize River is plentiful, and it has some, we call it prickle, some long prickle like that, right? So when that individual told you that it was for military defense too, right? He's 100% right.
But
say again?
I shouldn't be talking secret defense secret,
okay.
But
no, but they're plentiful. They would have to lose the whole river, Belize River Valley with that. That's very plentiful, right? And I know anybody could go through Pocono boy and come out untouched, right? And I tell them prickle that long, and when as in juking you, I experience it, right? As in juking you broke. Right?
Wow.
So, man, you see.
May I get a turn?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Brackett. Thanks for that. And as
thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks for that, Mr. Wade and Mr. Brackett.
You mentioned about Mr. Greenwood, no? Earlier. I used to work with him at Radio Belize.
Wow.
Yeah.
And mute your mic there a little bit, Greg.
That's why I remember that he used to be in the volunteer guard, because back in those days he used to be in the volunteer guard while he was working at Radio Belize as well. And let me not get into all the history about that. There was another thing that I wanted to touch base on.
And talking of Radio Belize, just quickly, somebody was baiting me who used to work at Radio Belize, but I said he was there first and let him say it. And I didn't rise to the bait, but it was almost amusing, ironic. He got so irritated and exasperated that he blurted out, "Well, I know that we were ordered at Radio Belize not to play any patriotic songs about the Battle of St. George's Key
They
or the
were.
10th of September.
That
And
is
I
true.
was saying,
That
you,
is true.
off the air, said to him, you are at Radio Belize, you say it on the air, say it. And he decided to, right? But you see that there were attacks on our history. And if you ask, you know, with the ICJ, what you were saying, Mr. Greg, you know, the Battle of St. George's, you remember we went through all the various basis on which this country belongs to Belize, not to anybody else, to Belizeans, and we will keep it for Belize, the whole of it, from the Hondo to the Sarstoon. You know that conquest, the Battle of St. George's Key, and the decision to fight was homegrown, taken right here. Our history will not deny it. So I would suggest to anybody who dares to utter that, and sometimes we repeat their lies too much, but you see, they say through the grapevine. So then sometimes, you know, old people are saying, no left thing for festa. Sometimes that thing, matter in there, rat in there, corruption in there, you lance it, you break it out now, you deal with it, right? So that's why anybody would defeat our history. These same people, they might read one line, a stranger might come and mention something, they don't go back to the source. Go to Yarborough Green, across from house number 15, they might want to destroy it. I hope not, God forbid. But you will see the tomb to Thomas Paslow, original historical reference erected by his nephew. I think he was a magistrate warlord, to a man and a magistrate whose gallantry defended the Battle of St. George's Key. Next to Paslow, Clarissa Paslow, Paslow Falls, the natural monuments to the west of the border. Clarissa was a black woman.
Can I go back to the point that I was trying
in Jamaica, pomp and ceremony, and brought her back to the settlement here.
Madam Chairwoman,
yes, sir.
May I go back to the point that I was trying to make a little earlier when
yes,
I asked for a chance? Those people who espouse the idea that there was not a real Battle of St. George's Key because there was no way that the people then with on the boy stick could have beat them big Spanish galleons with
big
cannons on them. In the first place, they couldn't reach up to them because we were, according to the history, we were on some flats, you know. But the bottom line is they're trying to deny our history, but with a purpose. There's an agenda.
That is not of Belize.
There's an agenda. And by them stipulating that it wasn't true, it lends credibility to the idea that we never earn our keeps. And we have no justification to be sitting on lands that belong to Spain.
So then,
and they are entitled to inherit what Spain had over here.
Then,
Spain could not give them what Spain did not have possession of. So they had their independence in 1821, and Spain could not have given them Belize because Spain never recognized Guatemala's independence till 1863.
The Federation of Central America.
2 years later. Right.
But let me ask this. Shouldn't we be asking them, because we haven't done this, we should be saying who first came with that myth? Because that myth...
With one people from the country came up with that idea.
Sorry?
It is our fifth columnists in our country that came up with that idea.
Our very own politicians.
To deceive our own local Belizean.
And I will say, you have, and he doesn't mind my calling his name, you have the elder Captain Nicholas Sanchez. He was a boy in the youth movement, and he told me who said what at Majestic Alley, and he sent the letter or something to a newspaper print to say what day. And we know there's a lot of the history of this. And I will refer to, I sent it to you, Greg. Somehow I came across The Pattern of Betrayal, published by Philip Golson, and it came from the horse's mouth with certain things. But what I want to say is that, as chairperson, I'll call on Mr. Greg, but our history is not to be denied. And it brings to mind another thing. You know how they said the Holy Roman Empire was not Holy Roman, or was it an empire? I will say this without apology. The peaceful, constructive Belizean revolution was not peaceful. It was not Belizean, and it was not of the people, and it was not a revolution. What it was meant to be a transition, which was going through the motion for independence, but it was a handover this country, lock, stock, and barrel to the enemy, the Western regime.
After we got
But
rid of the
for the
British.
grace of God
So
and the
true on that.
vigilance of the people of Belize and those who have sacrificed, been ridiculed, been left without jobs. There was a man, Pipersburg, he died, an ex-serviceman in New York, died about 91. You know why he was fired from the public service? Just one of many, and I won't rail up, but I will say this. When they stopped with the 10th of September parade, the government, you had people who, with their private music and so on, and the LNPOB, the school children's parade was discontinued. Everything. People were victimized who would show up in the 10th parade. So Mr. Pipersburg,
So true on
in
that.
his uniform, dared to lead the 10th of September parade with others, and he started with this song, Sons of Honduras, written by my grandfather. And he was called in and he was fired. My father was a member of the British Honduras Volunteer Guard after being a Boy Scout in the Wesley Boys Brigade and so on. And he was a musician. The family was talented musically. And after a parade, he was written to or sent to that he must surrender his uniform and his musical instrument, a trombone. And he responded formally and sent in his uniform. And he wrote, he said, but the trombone was a gift purchased for me by my father. It is my personal instrument. And those stories could be multiplied by 10,000 and more. Many
So true on that.
Belizean Americans who are abroad, they were
So true
not
on
just
that.
economic migrants, but they took the country with them, their dignity and their pride, and they serve and continue to serve America, even while upholding Belize, being our goodwill ambassadors and diplomats, and they are loyal to their new home, the US. And I thank the United States for embracing them, as well, Mother
Amen.
England and the Caribbean, and wherever Belizeans are, all over this world. When the war was happening in Ukraine, I discovered I have a third or fourth cousin married with a child in Ukraine. When I was being asked to pray for her, we have Belizeans all over the world.
So true on that.
But then navel string barrier. And I go back, sorry to be abusing as the
No, it's just the
chairperson,
timing. We're running out of time enough for your close down.
Mr. Gregory Brackett, please. Thank you.
You know, I thank you, Ms. Chair. We're having a healthy conversation for this 10th celebration. But rightfully, as you said, Lord Raven ain't lying. If you're band, you're band. So how come you want to tell me I don't have voting rights? How come you want to teach Belizean history, but you don't want to teach a whole of history? Why do you keep violating our history and our celebration day and changing the names? We went from Baron Bliss Day, which was a regatta out there where everyone would sit, to a La Ruta Maya. How can these things happen? I mean, these are all histories that have paved the way for our 10th celebration. And there are many names we could call. My good cousin was calling on my grandfather's name, Mr. Egbert Brackett, who was a patriot, and his role which he took very seriously. And there are many others of his caliber. When we think about the 10th, we have to go back and call names of individuals who has helped to make this celebration known worldwide by playing their role. Mr. Coleman, Seferino Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard O'Gay. We have to call these names because they are the one who spent time in broadcasting as well as others who took part in these parades, you know? And I would be the first to say that when we spoke about our public servants and when we look back at those eras, the public servants were the pallbearers for the underprivileged. The public servants was the one who stand up to the government when they were not playing their role, which is to protect its territory, to get with private sectors and create jobs, and to bring about peace and harmony in the community. The
Greg,
government has to find a way to separate public servants. Yes, my
Greg,
cousin.
can I add something to what you're saying there just now?
Yes,
Quickly.
you can.
Most people would watch tonight's program, and without us acknowledging and saying it for ourselves as a matter of testimony to the benefits of our ancestors and being grateful for our ancestors, many people looking at our program would not know the depth or the level of patriotism that swims in our bloodline for all four of us sitting on this program here tonight. Most people would have not the slightest clue about how deep our patriotic ardor runs in our blood. But like I said, I wasn't going to ask you for too much of your time because you have the
You
full
know,
time running.
I thank you for saying that. When you see we have a diverse culture and we are being marginalized, because gone are our pit pan days, which we, the black folks, used to attend and enjoy. Where are the greasy poles that we used to go and try to get the prize at the top? Huh? We have to sit down and talk about these things to our young people because the Belizean history they are teaching is not the true Belizean history. Where
They
are
want
the
to change our.
maypoles?
They want
You
us to
know,
get a new identity. They want to change our identity. What we have is not good enough for them.
The agenda is consistent with the very agenda that well, the fifth columnist.
They're right among us at the
well,
highest level of our governance at that, which is the treacherous part. But
With respect
that's my
to
that's my
defense,
closing because we're right 3
yes,
minutes
sir.
to close, and I think
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, lady, I
Yes,
think
sir.
Greg didn't finish his thought. I asked him for a little of his time, and Mr. Wade has to close. You have to close, and we are within 2 minutes. I don't know how we're gonna get it done.
well,
I yield back to
what
Madam
I
Chair.
will do, as I was saying, right, and I have never said this before, and when it comes to being patriotic, I am one of the ones like Mr. Wade, like the Patricia Bennett and the others, the Golden
God rest
Girls.
the dead. Thanks for that.
I have represented this country and the national basketball team. I sit by quietly and we look at sports players whose names are not called. We do not have streets in their name. They are gone and forgotten. But all these players like Sonamain, and we can go on, the Coways, who has also been a part of our tradition and have paved the way and have helped other young folks to grow up and idolize the things that they do. With that said, I would like to pass it back to our chair lady so she can, do a closing for us. And I thank the Belizean people at home and abroad for tuning in. I hope that we have touched history during this time of our celebration.
When we close out, could you close us out with one of the song them?
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
I just want
will.
When we close out, Madam Chair,
Yes.
you have the floor back.
Quickly though, that with respect to defense of Belize, the settlement, our natural defenses, Mr. Brackett, you alluded to, the very reef, the Montego Shoals, when they thought Captain Moss, they could surprise, and there was a landing expedition coming over down south. The battlements were at Constitution Bay, is right above the Halover Bridge, Fort Balcar or Balcarres or whatever. And then you had St. George's Key, of course. But they thought Captain Moss was just idle and snorkeling. Even the corrals, they burned the buildings before the enemy would take the stores. There was a lot of floundering on the reef. You had surprise. You had what you call in sports and war, home turf advantage. And then the baymen had sent for, even before troops and supplies. You had HMS Merlin. You had the Tickler, the Towser, the Teasers, the baymen going flats, and they were well equipped. And even the flats or rafts of the slaves and freemen, you want to go over a swamp or a shoal, where you're going over. So they came over, the armada came overpowered and self and disease and other things, and violence and bravery. They set themselves up for the defeat.
We can continue probably Monday a little bit, no?
Thank you.
Because we'll still be within the same celebration.
Yes, and we can go on to how this makes for independence. Yeah. Because without 10th of September, we don't have no independent Belize. Thanks.
Thank you.
We have never get to close, Mr. Weird. You have 30 seconds, sir. That you could,
well,
whatever
Belize and beyond, thanks for watching our 37th edition of Belizean Affairs, and we will continue this on Monday, right? Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Everyone that watched our program.
Madam Chairwoman, for such a splendid
and
program.
Thank you, Miss Sharon. Thank you very much. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Leonard.
Thanks to our viewers and people who tune into our program, and I hope they enjoyed. Could you take us out for about 10 seconds of music?
Yes,
Greg, please.
Words from My Homeland by the Sea by Edward Percival York, music by Philip.
Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you, Mr. Weir. Thank you, Sharon. And that was a great program. I enjoyed it. You guys took me way back down memory lane. We're gone.
Thank you.